Today, I'm going back a little bit in time. Our first documentary that we did several years ago was called Dearly Departed Volume 1. And we did a story about Lana Clarkson, the murder of the actress Lana Clarkson, and by Phil Spector, who was the music producer. Now, things have changed since then. One or two of the locations from the Lana Clarkson video is gone now. So I thought it would be kind of a cool thing to revisit that. And, Phil Spector's gone now, so it deserves another look and another update. And plus, I met Lana's mother, and I'll tell you something really interesting that she told me. So today, take a step back in time to revisit the murder of Lana Clarkson by the music producer Phil Spector.
We're in front of Dan Tana's restaurant right now. Hollywood A-listers still come to Dan Tana's for dinner. Now, on the night of February 3rd, 2003, Phil Spector came to Dan Tana's about 12:30 in the morning. He was having dinner with a blonde woman, not Lana Clarkson. Now, Phil, during dinner, was downing strawberry daiquiris. He had been sober for quite a while, and since he was a regular here, the bartender questioned Phil, but all seemed okay. And they left around 1:45 that morning and headed to the House of Blues just to catch last call. And then Phil arrived here at the House of Blues.
The House of Blues on Sunset Boulevard only existed for a little over 20 years. It was a very well-known, very recognizable Los Angeles landmark, and it was destroyed in 2015.
As I understand it, Phil went into the foundation room. It's the VIP area, so people don't, have to fraternize with the little people. The House of Blues looks like a rusty old tin shack. In fact, they spent several millions of dollars on it to make it look like a rusty old tin shack. And the House of Blues has the foundation rooms, and one of the entrances to the foundation rooms is right here. So Lana Clarkson would have been inside there checking people in at her little podium. Now, I think that he had his chauffeur drop off the blonde that he had dinner with, and came to the House of Blues. Got here about 1:45. They had met, Lana Clarkson and Phil Spector. He ordered a bottle of very expensive champagne, and the chauffeur returned, and they were chauffeured out to Alhambra, to Phil's house. How she was making her money, I don't know. She wasn't really doing a whole lot of acting, and she was working at the House of Blues. There are lots of rumors about what her career choice was, or what she was doing to make money. I have no idea what she was doing to make money. I do know that she met Phil Spector there that night and went home with him in a limousine at 2:30 in the morning. That's what I know. So Lana was working as the hostess in the foundation room at the House of Blues, which is basically the VIP section. And when Phil Spector walked in, she was, "Excuse me, ma'am, you can't be in here." She thought he was a woman at first, because he's an unusual looking guy. But I think somebody grabbed her and said, "Don't you know who that is?" And obviously didn't know it was a guy. And then she went home with him, like, "Oh yeah, they're just friends." They left the House of Blues about 2:30 in the morning and were driven by Phil's chauffeur to the Phil Spector's Pyrenees Castle in Alhambra. It's probably about 25 miles from the House of Blues.
The Pyrenees Castle is in Alhambra, California, which is a middle-class, working to middle-class neighborhood. And this outrageous 10,000 square foot mansion stands on a hill overlooking this city. It's got 10 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms. It was built in 1925. Phil Spector bought it in 1998 for a little over $1 million. Now, Phil was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was a musical genius responsible for so many, the Righteous Brothers and the Ronettes and even the Beatles. He produced one of the Beatles albums, and just an iconic, an amazing, spectacular, talented genius. He was also crazier than a bag of hangers, and everyone knew it. And he'd give him booze and drugs, which he often had. He would go off, and often did go off. There are so many stories about him pulling weapons out and threatening people Ronnie Spector said it happened on her wedding night because he threatened if she ever left him that he would take care of her. And at dinner parties, or the Ramones made an album with him, and he famously waved a weapon around. And then even Joan Rivers had a story.
You know this. You're in the newspaper today.
No, I don't know.
You are.
Trouble?
I'm curious about that. No, you're in the paper because you sort of peripherally are involved in this Phil Spector case, and they
Yes.
brought it up in the paper.
He was at one of my parties.
You're kidding me. So you have this big party.
He was dating my manager at the time, Dorothy.
Right. Yeah, Dorothy.
And she brought him once before to my house, and it was very nice. He brought his own keyboard, and he played.
Wow.
And then he got drunk, and we asked him to go. So they went. Now it's my big Christmas party. So again, it's a big Christmas party. Dorothy says, I want to bring him.
And he shows up with that wild hair.
And the hair and the keyboard, and he's going to, what kind of a great party. And then he gets drunk again.
Oy vey.
And he pulls out a gun. He goes after Walter Cronkite's daughter.
Now, Walter Cronkite's daughter, she's probably an older woman, right?
She's about 40s, in her 40s.
And what did she do to?
Well, she ran up into my bedroom, and he ran after her. I have 200 people there.
And he pulls out the gun.
And Louis Tenazzo, who testified,
Right.
run upstairs and gets him and pulls him down and takes him into my house, a little elevator, takes him down the elevator.
Wow.
The keyboard followed the day later.
So you think?
And as he's walking out, brandishing the gun, my nice neighbor comes to him and goes, Merry Christmas, he says, and brandishes the gun.
As described on the autopsy report, the synopsis, the decedent, meaning Lana Clarkson, was working at the House of Blues when the suspect, Phil Spector, picked her up and took her to his home at about 3:30 a.m. on February 3, 2003. Spector's driver was sitting in the car listening to the radio when, at about 5:30 a.m., he heard a, quote, popping sound and went to investigate. After calling Phil Spector's secretary, the driver called 911.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, my name is Adriano. I think my boss killed somebody.
Now, why do you believe he may have killed somebody?
Because you have a lady on the floor and he has a gun in his hand.
Now, law enforcement arrived within a few minutes, and after speaking to the driver, they approached the mansion. And remember, it was all surrounded by forest, and they had no idea what they were walking into. So they were heading up very cautiously, and then the door opened, and Phil Spector came out. And he was babbling. He was incoherent, and to the officers, he seemed drunk. They demanded that he put his hands in the air, and he refused. He put his hands actually behind his back, and it looked as if he was going to reach for something in his nightshirt, which was covered in blood. And he began to back towards the house. And they didn't want to lose the sight line, so they fired a taser at him, but it caught his shirt, and it didn't disable him. So two other officers rushed him with what they call a ballistic shield and knocked him on his back. Then two other officers rushed past them and discovered Lana Clarkson's body in the foyer of the house, covered in blood, her teeth scattered around the nearby carpet. This is the scene description written by the detectives. The scene is the rear foyer, ground level of the residence. Located in the foyer on the east side is the sideboard with chairs on either side of it. Directly across on the west side is a staircase leading to a second floor. The decedent, Lana Clarkson, is sitting stiffly with legs extended in front of her in the northernmost chair. Just to the left and beneath her left lower extremity, her leg, is a .38 caliber Colt. The weapon, upon inspection of the detective, showed 5 live rounds and 1 expended spear ammunition. Blood was noted on the grips, trigger guard, and the right side of the cylinder. 2 taser darts and cords are observed lying on the carpet in front and to both sides of the decedent. Observed directly in front of the decedent, next to the stairs, are 2 small white objects that appear to be tooth material. 2 more fragments are noted about halfway up the stairs. Several small bloody areas are noted on the carpeting underneath the right side of the chair, next to the decedent's handbag and right hand. It should be noted that while conducting an inventory of personal effects, this is the detective, I discovered that the decedent's waist to ankle black skirt in her handbag along with long black dress gloves. According to Mrs. Clarkson, Lana's mother, when she was interviewed, the decedent had been wearing the long black skirt upon her leaving for work. The evidence collected were several prescription and over-the-counter medications from her handbag. All of the evidence was booked into evidence. The weapon and the possible dental fragments not found on the body were collected and booked by the LA Sheriff's Department.
It's just weird. We're in Alhambra, and there's nothing in Alhambra, and there's not even that many, terrifically huge mansions like this one. It just sort of stands out as quite unusual, which is actually what Phil Spector is, quite unusual. You can even see that he's got his name on the front of the gate over there.
The suspect was then taken to Alhambra Police Department and booked. The weapon, a .38 caliber Colt, was booked into evidence by the LA Sheriff's Department, homicide. The investigation is still ongoing. The autopsy is scheduled for the next day.
And they found some blood-spattered clothing. I guess Phil Spector was wearing clothes. And they found that in an upstairs room. So I think that he had tried to clean it up a little bit to make it less about him. And according to at least one report, he had blood on his fingers. As I understand it, he said at some point, I didn't mean to shoot her. After his arrest, Phil Spector was quoted as saying, "I don't know what the lady, what her problem is, but she wasn't a security at the House of Blues and she's a piece of shit. And I don't know what her problem was, but she certainly had no right to come to my castle, blow her head open, ... And that's how it ends. And I think that's that is a testament to Phil Spector's character.
Within the autopsy report, it's noted that her cause of death is a gunshot wound of the head and neck. Entry, the oral cavity. Gray discoloration present around the posterior pharyngeal wound effect. No stippling, which means no gunpowder abrasions around the entrance wound. The projectile, a deformed copper jacket lead bullet medium caliber, and a small lead fragment are recovered from her skull and soft tissue at the base of the skull, respectively. Other associated injuries, fracture of the left gingiva, which is her gums, tongue laceration, hard and soft palate fractures and laceration of the posterior pharyngeal soft tissue. That's the tube in the back of your throat, which food and oxygen pass through. Base of the skull fractures, lung blood aspiration, upper central incisors with fractures, these are her teeth, and left lateral incisor with part of the enamel absent. That's what they found on the staircase. Right and lower medial leg contusion, right medial wrist contusion. These are all bruises. Right posterior lower leg contusions, right thumb acrylic nail diagonal fracture, so her fingernail was broken. But the entry wound direction through the tissues is front to back and slightly upward, so it was actually the roof of her mouth. There was no evidence of medical intervention. Here are the clothes. A black jacket previously cut by the criminalist in an upward direction along the midline back, size large, the brand Vertigo Paris. A black slip with focal red stains dried on the front. Black shoes, 9 West brand. No size indicated. Black nylons. The left hip shows blood present from prior movement of the body. There's also amber glitter painted toenails of the decedent. Black underwear, Brazilian or tango type cut made by Fredericks of Hollywood. A black bra, no size indicated, with the brand Felina. Now, at the actual scene, they discuss the injuries as well, and rigor mortis was at +4 for the legs, ankles, arms, wrists, elbows, and shoulders, hips, jaw, the hips at 3, jaw 4, and neck at 2. They also noted fly eggs in her right external auditory, in her ear, and her right anterior chest that are subsequently collected by the criminalist back at the autopsy room. So She was there long enough for there to be fly eggs, which I find fascinating. Her right fingernail, thumb noted with diagonal fracture, white acrylic nails, otherwise of medium length and not long. And the description of the clothing was supplied earlier. In addition, a circumferential choker is observed around her neck. And in the purse, the decedent also has a black dress skirt and a pair of black soft mesh-style hand gloves with long sleeves. Her gastrointestinal system, the esophagus is intact, the stomach is not distended, it contains 180 milliliters of brown liquid and white soft particulates, of which the exact contents cannot be identified. The brain and spinal cord are placed in a formalin solution for further fixation and exam. Also removed were skin from her right wrist, right forearm wrist, and photographs, of course, were taken of the body while in the autopsy room. And for toxicology, there have been samples taken of her blood, heart, femoral, EDTA, and vacuum intact purple top tube, and those were collected at 11:55 a.m. For toxicology. They also did an exam to see if there were any activity that she may not have consented to of the intimate nature. So the opinion of the medical examiner: this 40-year-old Caucasian woman died as a result of a gunshot wound to the head and neck while in the accompaniment of a male at his residence. She was found slouched in a chair with her legs stretched out in front of her. The entrance wound of the oral cavity, to include the tongue, shows gunshot residue consistent with close range of fire. It also should be noted that there was no history of any sort of self-harm with the victim, and there was no note found at the scene. Based on history, circumstances, law enforcement, police reports, and autopsy, is currently known the manner of death is homicide. During that trial, it was a mess. It was a sideshow. Phil Spector was showing up in ridiculous wigs and in ridiculous outfits, and they were being so nasty about Lana Clarkson's reputation, saying that she was a desperate, broke actress and she was trying to latch on to Phil Spector. And then they were saying that she took her own life in Phil Spector's home after only meeting the guy for an hour, and she's sitting 10 feet from the door, and she's got her purse over her shoulder, and she's like ready to leave, and all of a sudden she's going to take her own life. So they were pretty nasty to her. There were accusations of one of the teams hiding crucial evidence that complicated things, and the jury just couldn't decide. They could not come to a conclusion, and they declared it a mistrial. After 6 months of an investment into this trial, they declared a mistrial. So a year later, a second trial began, and finally a guilty verdict was declared. And additionally, he was found guilty of using a firearm in the commission of a crime, which added another 4 years to the sentence, which, whatever. And on May 29th, 2009, he was sentenced to 19 years to life. He served a little over 11 years when he finally died in custody on January 16th of 2021. He died of symptoms related to COVID-19. He was 81 years old. Bye. So as I alluded to earlier in the video, I did get a chance to meet Lana's mother at her grave, at Lana's grave at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And I approached her because I was up there anyway. It's a very small area where Lana is right now. And I said, well, I'm so sorry for your loss, for your daughter's life and the loss in your life. And she said to me, and I quote this, she said, if he'd only apologized, we wouldn't have gone through this. So she was basically saying, Phil Spector blamed it on Lana Clarkson, said the whole thing was her fault, called her all sorts of names, wouldn't take responsibility for it, even though he's famous for flashing guns around and threatening people's lives, but he refused to take any responsibility for it. And Lana's mother just said, you know what? If he'd just said sorry, we wouldn't have had to go through this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. And rest in peace, Lana Clarkson. And Until next time.
You heard me.